Welcome to It's Server Time, episode number 33. We are going to be jumping into IEM Cologne 2022. And as always, I'm joined by a handful of handsome gentlemen. We've got Pronogo here pushing the buttons, saying whatever comes to his mind. Whatever comes to his mind, he will say it. That's what he's here for. Then we got Mix, absolutely crushing it in Valorant. Just kidding. I don't watch any Valorant at all, so I have no idea what's going on over there. And then we have Note, who is pushing articles regularly on a website that gets a lot of viewership. It is called HLTV. But yeah.
He's also a terrible person.
Also a terrible person.
Yeah.
Also, he will say whatever comes to his mind. Absolutely unfiltered here at It's Server Time. Okay, let's just jump into some things. We've finally, as a North American bunch, we have a North American team we can fucking root for. We have an NA team that's exciting. It has been too long. Long have we waited. Many times debated, but YEKINDAR very properly rated. This team looks sick now. So, what have you guys liked about this version of Liquid?
So far, I've been pretty interested, just by the roles. I was like looking at their roles and I was particularly interested in like what Elijah's playing.
Yeah.
And like on Overpass, for example, he's playing like the connector lurk role on like T side, so which is like really new for Elijah. Like obviously for like probably like 5 years, he's been playing, mostly in the pack, like taking map control, that type. Yeah. So it's just cool to see like Elijah kind of doing something different, and also like for the most part thriving a lot of the time in this role, even playing like B lurker or Mirage and like things like that. So I've been pretty intrigued by that.
Yeah, they kind of, I'll put it like this, they kind of prefaced the whole tournament with Elijah changed almost all of his spots. And then I saw it, and I think on T side, yeah, his roles are quite different, but CT side, he kind of got a lot of similar positions today. So for him to be still thriving on T side, it just shows once again the caliber of really, it should be with little question that he's top 3 NA all time. But I think that right now this tournament he's pushing the narrative that, and he's trying to remind everybody that he is the best in North America. So anything, have you guys liked the, well, let's see, let's just maybe talk about some of the matches. The most recent one being Furia. That it was close, but I guess because they started with 8 rounds T-side Ancient, I guess I was never too in doubt by that. But it did get close, actually. So that was kind of scary, actually.
I think Ancient got close. Mirage was a little more misleading, I think. Like, yeah, I got to overtime, but the first 5 rounds after, I think they were up like 11-4 or something.
Yeah, they were.
I think the first 5 rounds after they swapped sides was a little misleading because Liquid basically had like, I think they had like a 5v3 in one of those rounds. They had like 3v3 with HP advantage. They had like a couple of spots where they could have easily won those rounds, and it would have been like the match would have ended 16-8, 16-9. But yeah, I think for as far as that's concerned, like that could have been a much quicker 2-0 than it was. So for me, that was kind of just Elijah shitting on everybody, especially on Mirage. Like I think he was 41-17 at the end of that map, which is insane.
Crazy.
Like you said, he is kind of reminding people that he is like of the level that he has, which we haven't seen consistently for the last few months. So I think having YEKINDAR kind of reviving that just by his presence on the team is also really good to see. I was surprised by how much YEKINDAR was double opping. Like on Dust 2 as well. It was not what I expected to see, actually.
I don't want to see it anymore. I don't like it. I don't like the YEKINDAR double op. I'll just say that. I like a lot of what he's bringing to the team, but the op for him it just takes away a lot of options. And the thing is that I feel like Nitro should be a perfectly capable secondary opper when he was the primary opper for a Grand Slam run. Like, why is this?
Nitro or Nav, I feel like are both much better options.
Yeah, same. So I don't like when he does that, but I also think that YEKINDAR is imposing himself a lot on this team in terms of what he wants. And there's been tons of interviews with him. He's basically the center of every narrative with this team. But I also think that something that's kind of like underrated is Daps on this team. Like, but it's really hard to It's always hard to quantify what a coach is bringing. But this team is gelling very quickly, and I think that's also due into the part that Daps is like. I feel like he's just probably a really good mediator sort of guy. I feel like he's probably like when I tried talking to Yakinder or Elish, that is, about what Daps was bringing, he said like basically every game plan and all the ideas are brought together by Nitro, Daps, and Yakinder. So it's like all three of them were working together, and I think like I just kind of like am saying this not because I think like Daps is the reason they got to the playoffs here or anything like that, but I just know that when a player of this caliber like Yakinder is brought to the team, it will go underrated what a coach is doing here, and I just want to give some credit, even though I think that this is probably like 85% Yakinder, 15% Daps, just something like that. But it's like it's more than zero. And so, but I know people will also in the future with Liquid coaches, it feels like everybody gets shit on. Like so.
It was something I brought up in the Dust 2 post show yesterday, but it's really hard to quantify Daps's impact this tournament specifically just because Yakinder got out at the same time. So it's like it's really hard to get a full proper gauge as to what he's bringing. What was nice was the fact that Liquid used timeouts way more than they ever did with Adren. So that was something that I actually like really appreciated. That it is already like a tangible change from before. So it's just seeing them call those and call them like frequently and in spots where you would never see Liquid do it before. Like even if they just lost one round, it was like seeing that actually brought back a bit of faith for me.
Yeah, the timeouts are okay. Yeah, Pernogo, if you have something.
Just that it's nice to see Liquid call in timeouts like the rest of the space, like all the other teams at the top level of Counter-Strike. It's nice for that to be a change. Yeah, when Daps was announced, there's always the by the numbers sourced memes of how he's just gonna roll over and be a yes man. But he had some clapbacks on Twitter back then, if people remember or they were following. He was saying if I was still a yes man, I would still be at EG, for example. And so the fact that he's been picked up by Liquid, it's nice because it's NA homegrown talent to some degree. He's moved on from his Valorant stint back here. Now he's dealt with the EG silliness and he's onto a proper team in theory. And it's weird to call Liquid a proper team so soon, but they definitely look completely changed at this event compared to their last couple showings with Shox, right? It's a brief period of time I think pretty much everybody, be you a French fan or an NA fan, probably wants to forget about. So when you see Yekinder, and you also see Elish popping off now. It's like all the storylines are coming together. You have this great mercenary that is like, if you're going to import a player from Europe, you probably want it to be somebody like Yekinder over Shox, right? You have somebody who's proven now, who has enough veterancy that they are probably going to be able to contribute on your leadership side. Or at the very least, they're not going to be a problem in that sense, you hope, right? I mean, maybe he's a bit more unproven in that sense than Shox is. But as an emotional leader, or as at least a piece of the puzzle that's not going to, go completely bust once things get tough, I think Yekinder is a really good shout. And people probably underrate that aspect of his game, because when you look at VP, they're not as forward-facing about talking about all the problems within the team. You don't have like a documentary crew rolling around behind them in the same way as you had with Liquid. So you probably aren't privy as much to those issues. But, there were some talks and interviews, right, where I think it was Yekinder himself saying, a lot of the times we were not, not fans, not friends of each other. We didn't act as friends. We didn't have that same camaraderie. And now in Liquid, it's a completely different experience and everybody's friendly. It's like, just by virtue of him talking about how different his experience in Liquid has been so far, he's actually shed some light on what must have been lacking comparatively in his time with Virtus Pro. So I think that's probably an underrated aspect, too, of this. But it's also one that's not nearly as impactful as Elish dropping 40 plus frags on the server, right? So
I mean, I think it's twofold though. Like bringing that emotional leadership side of it is like something that Liquid needs sorely, just because of the way that they tend to get in games, especially ones where they start letting the lead slip away. So I actually think that that's a massive, like, if you're going to bring that sort of emotional leadership to a team, Liquid's kind of the one that needs it.
Yeah.
And just Yekinder's personality alone is like, he's not going to be shut down by other people kind of getting a little emo during the game, which is, I think, exactly what is like the tangible thing that Liquid needed. On top of that, though, like stuff that he was mentioning in interviews was that like he's basically updating their style of the game. Like he said that they're still playing an old meta style of Counter-Strike. So he's like trying to bring a lot of the kind of outsiders, not their style specifically, but he's trying to update their side of the game into more of what Europe plays. And for me, that's like a huge part of like it's an intangible addition of YEKINDAR. Outside of like everyone's going to focus on how good of a player he is individually, but that's such a massive thing to bring to a North American team that hasn't really had that. And lastly, the extra factor behind that for me is like, fuck, now it's slipped away from my head.
Oh,
I'll come back to it.
The whole YEKINDAR bringing stuff to their style it's like I need to dig a little bit deeper into their tactics, which I will do before the playoffs begin. But I also think that it's like they're trying so hard to tell us that like every interview has basically been like YEKINDAR's helping with style, YEKINDAR's helping with calling, YEKINDAR's bringing stuff to us, and that's I think just it's almost like he's it's like what he brings in the server and what he brings outside of it is like everything that Liquid need is an aggressive player. Like this match is just made in heaven. Like I fucking love it. I really hope that they pull through with this deal. I think that on the Dust 2 article that was released like 2 hours ago that he kind of like indicated, I don't know, from what I read from that, felt like 85% he's going to join, something like that. Like, and if that happens, I think I just have to be a Liquid fan. Like, I really kind of avoided that for a long time for myself because I just saved myself the heartbreak by not really getting invested in them. But it's like, dude, I mean, YEKINDAR was on, even though I've championed Big a lot, VP was my favorite team for the last few years. And that was because when YEKINDAR joined, I went all in on that team. I was like, this team just makes so much sense to me, and I love their really unique brand of playing. So I think that honestly, this is going to be really, really cool. But Mix, like, what have you liked from the games you've seen from Liquid?
I mean, overall, it's just crazy how like fresh this team feels just from like one player change and a coaching change. Like it feels like, I mean, just the way they've completely like changed up all their strats, like their complete identity. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy that like, I just think about like for Daps especially, like how it must feel going from like that EG team to this team, like the change of environment and like the players he's around and like just how hard everyone's working. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels really fresh. I'm glad. Personally, I'm gonna give most of the like 95% of the credit to OC. Strats, timeouts,
naturally.
I think OC's really carrying the load there, but.
The point I was going to make earlier was that NAF in the last interview they did after they qualified yesterday basically said that YEKINDAR is like, he reminds him a lot of Stewie. Like he's like, it feels like I'm playing with Stewie just in the way that he's calling and like having like the kind of plays he's making, the emotional leadership he's having. So that was like just an interesting little tidbit to tie into it.
And also, Naf once again is just always proving like just how valuable he is, because especially mostly on CT. Like on T, I feel like most of his roles are the same because just he's like the main lurker. But I mean on CT, right? He's like on Mirage. He's like back to playing like the B anchor.
He had to change spots
Mirage,
too.
Like he's had to change spots. Like YEKINDAR and Elise are gonna dictate a lot of like the rotator spots, so that's gonna leave a lot less room for Naf. But Naf, I think when he's playing with players like YEKINDAR and Elise, isn't gonna have a problem with that, and he's gonna play his spots, and he's just gonna be a fucking beast at it. So. Just such a valuable piece to have for any team.
Yeah, I think that, dude, it's like every single person on this team has elevated their game. Like basically the only guy I guess I'd say hasn't maybe is Nitro individually, but they're playing such a better overall style that I'm sure is influenced by YEKINDAR, that whatever the back and forth is between Nitro and YEKINDAR is working very well right now. And I would say that OC series versus Cloud9, oh my god, he was so good. Like OC was so like everything, all the highlight reels that we have seen of OC for years now, he finally delivered against a top 5 team. Like that was sick gameplay coming out from OC, and I if he's able to maintain that, like we keep having this discussion where basically it's like all of us NA people are like, trust me, OC's good. Like trust me, OC's good. And like when he hit the international circuit in Tier 1, like a lot of Europeans are like, well, when were we gonna see that? when is that happening? It's like it's happening at Cologne. It's happening now. So I'm like, finally, we feel vindicated, validated, everything about what we've been saying about this guy, because he was instrumental in their success in that series. Like, oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, like actually in the Furia game too, he just had so many moments where he would just save him in a late round, like just hit that last shot. Oh my God! On Vertigo against C9, I think like there was like a 1v2 that one of the players from C9 were in, and they like he basically like, I forgot, like the C9 player killed, I think, a Liege or something like that, and OC had to hit this super quick shot like as this guy was falling back towards Ivy side, and he just wall banged him like perfectly, and it was like, dude, that was so clutch. If you miss that one shot, you're not winning. You might not win this map, you might not win this series, and it's like those kind of things are so sick to watch. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that he hasn't lost the confidence to actually like have to step up on rounds. Like if it's a 4v or 3v4 and he has to, like, the only way to win a round is by taking like an aggressive duel somewhere, he's not shy of it. Like he didn't lose that like a lot of operas who come up.
Yeah. Oh man, I will say I called it after the first interview. The very first interview that YEKINDAR had, he said we all have 150 plus hours, and I was like, they're making playoffs. Like that's just gonna get you to playoffs every time. Also, so I have to acknowledge that. I have to gloat because I get a lot of predictions wrong, but when I get one right, like that one, I also gave so much reasoning to getting it right. Like I was like, this is so obvious. Like they're gonna make it. Like, but if you don't know by now that playing 150 hours gets you to the playoffs, you just don't. Like that's just what every like that's what Spirit did before the major. That's what Gambit did to win the major. Anytime I hear people have that many hours, I'm like, you're gonna be a top team at this event. So that's cool. It's a cheat. It's literally, it's so unsustainable though. It's such a cheat code though. It's so.
Well, they just know what's right around the corner, right? The player break. So
yeah,
they're good.
So grind for this last one. Yeah.
Maybe it came as a surprise, you know, because communication is not the strongest suit of CSGO entities, but you know, the player break still is coming. You know, you didn't know it, but it's happening. So
right. I actually talked to Twist last night, and he told me he has like 130 hours in the past 2 weeks, and I was like, oh. I'm kind of worried about Navi now. You're making me a little worried because Kerrigan. Maybe we could. Well, does anybody, before we move on to like FaZe or something like that? Do you guys have any last thoughts about this Liquid team? Anything you guys have liked?
Just
any other players?
Yeah, it's just nice to see them all back. You know, and they're admittedly it is a little bit rougher. Like we touched a little bit on the Furia series. The closing of that, like you mentioned, it was so impactful. The closing of both of those maps, and it's one of those things where old Liquid, like say a year back, would probably have choked that. It feels like. And then the Liquid most recently, before YEKINDAR joined, wouldn't have even gotten to that point so that they could choke it. So the fact that they won. Again, small sample size, we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, we're seeing a lot of runs that were not necessarily expected. And it's really, really nice that in this case, we can point to something specifically. YEKINDAR's joining, Daps is joining, and then be able to say, okay, well, this is why it makes sense, and hopefully it continues on after the player break, right? So, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this story unfolds. YEKINDAR was one of my favorite players to watch back on the VP era, so the fact that he's able to continue finding impact and continue going places is, I would say, pretty nice. So, yeah, those are my general thoughts on Liquid.
One more thing. This is kind of just funny. This is like, I talked to, after the Spirit series with Liquid, where, if people remember that one, it was 3 maps. They smashed Liquid on Dust. Liquid smashed Spirit on Dust 2, which was Spirit's pick. Then Liquid did not do that well on their own pick of Overpass, and then they had a really close game against Spirit that they brought all the way back. They were ahead. They had multiple match points, and they lost all of them and then ended up losing in double overtime. I talked to Kerrigan about this series, and the way Kerrigan characterized that series was really funny, because he was like, the first map was like, oh, this is the new Liquid, that they can just beat people on Dust 2. Then he said the second map was like, oh, he's reminded this is kind of how Liquid's been for the last handful of months. And then the third map was how he has recognized Liquid for the last 5 years.
Okay.
Because they went from overperforming to just being bad to being chokesters, and in the span of a single series, and it was like all the phases of Liquid condensed into a single series. So that was the way he said it was so funny that it's like, oh my god, yeah, that was good.
The 3 forms of matter.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, let's move on to FaZe. I want to talk about them. They just railed everybody getting into the playoffs. They didn't drop a single map. Twist told me he has 130 hours in the past 2 weeks, and he I think Twist is like looking for his medal on this team right now. He's statistically just barely ahead of Rain in terms of overall rating. But what have you guys liked what you've seen from FaZe so far? Because Kerrigan also has mentioned that he basically cares about 3 events now per year. 4, I guess. The majors, Cologne, Katowice. He cares. That's it. That's
it's like that for a bunch of teams at this point.
Yeah,
so still like the biggest titles of the year, no matter what. Like,
yeah,
I think for me, like I think FaZe looked pretty comfortable in the group.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still worried a little bit about Brokey. He hasn't really like reached that same level he was at when they were demolishing everyone. So I don't know if they'll be able to like keep cruising through events. I think at the end of this, like, because it's the end of the season, I think some teams, they're not checked out, but like some teams have like gotten achievements, like Cloud9 won Dallas, so like maybe they were a little bit less like inclined to have the same like killer mentality, I guess. But I don't know. I think Brokey's performance will have to step up when they get to the arena if they want to actually like take the title over Navi, who are playing relatively well right now. Yeah, I think Twist is definitely performing like well up like to his old standards almost. So I think that's always a good sign for them. But I don't know if I'm convinced of them like comfortably taking the title.
Well, the thing is, like, FaZe for a little while now. It's funny that you said that Kerrigan only cares about those 4 events. It's like, I don't know if you can build an era out of only getting those 4 events. I guess maybe you make a compelling argument, but if you're just going to sort of
win a couple others on the side, maybe or something, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, it's very clear though. Like when they're switched on in an event like this, it's night and day compared to, for example, Dallas and some of the previous events where they didn't necessarily claim victory or claim the trophy. So yeah, I'm hoping that we see more of the FaZe from the major. One of the weirdest things about this tournament is, and I think you can tell it based on the Movistar Riders results, some of the teams getting eliminated early on or earlier on, like Vitality, obviously. These situations are like weird because when you're a fan trying to follow the narratives in a parity era where there's so many tournaments, and I feel like we are kind of in a parity era right now. No team is really stretched ahead. It makes it really hard to figure out who actually is the best team or who's like a favorite going into some of these more contested matchups. And, some people will say that's good and some people will say that's bad. But it's just a fact of the matter is that it's hard for me to orient myself as like, okay, wait, what were the most recent results? And did those results matter as much as like maybe a tournament further back that people were taking more seriously? And you have to bring all of these extra elements into the analysis in order to get a conclusion. Which makes it kind of difficult to just know at a glance, oh, here's the match page on HLTV, and here's who I think is the favorite. So that's probably the biggest concern that I have, is that I don't really know the power level of these teams relative to each other nearly as well as I did, say, a few months ago, right, where it felt like it was a little bit more obvious, going into the most recent major, for example. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts.
You didn't watch the Rubek Cup to get a good idea of what the teams are forming?
Yeah, I can't say that I took out time from my schedule to watch that. Sorry. But, yeah, so really, it's not even just the fact that tournaments are more numerous and that it's harder to watch all of the matches. It's also that like the results are so up and down. It's not, if it was something you could go back and look at, like, oh, at the Rubek Cup, FaZe did this, then it's consistent with all their other tournament showings, but obviously even at Dallas, for example, they weren't exactly showing the same form. And, who knows how many other effects or whatever side effects contributed to that. But it feels to me like the end result is that the average viewer is just going to be like, well, I don't know who's going to win this match, which in one sense is cool because you get to watch and find out. But on the other sense, it's nice to know roughly what the storyline is. And I feel like that's been pretty difficult to do at Cologne so far, just because of all of the back and forth nature of the parody era, so to speak.
I'd characterize it like this: that the top 2 teams in FaZe and Navi are just leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. They're so good, and I mean, well, yeah. Let's just talk about it. Like, it's weird that the playoffs of Cologne have no ranked 3 through 11th teams, or it's like everybody. It's the number 1 and number 2, and then you just get like these random underdog stories and. Some of these teams peaking at a weird time, like Movistar, Liquid, like MOUZ is suddenly good. Are we believing that? Is that like, does anybody really believe this team is good? Like, what's going on? But I've broken it down on the desk what's going on with this team. Actually, let's save some of that. Like Mix, did you want to talk about FaZe at all, or did you have anything else about him?
Nothing crazy.
Okay.
I mean, I was just gonna say, did you notice how like consistent all their matches have been so far? They won like 16-10, 16-13 both for their first 2 matches, and then 16-11, 16-13.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just funny.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely like they're doing it pretty comfortably, I'd say. It doesn't even feel like when they were kind of, I would say, in the major, for example, I felt like they were just so much. I almost feel like they just feel so much better than that second tier that I kind of outlined there, where it's just like them and Navi are just really tough to deal with right now. But even Navi has dropped some maps already in this tournament, like to MOUZ and Movistar. But I okay, let's just I was
just a bit worried about their form, but it's nice to see that it kind of seems like it is true that like the events that like they care about and have really prepared for. Cologne's one of them. They've really shown up here compared to like Dallas and previous events. So it's good to see they didn't just like show up and keep shitting the bed.
Well, I think actually, I will say this: like, even though FaZe fell in the quarterfinals of Dallas, like the Cloud9 team that they were playing there was better than any Cloud9 team I've ever seen before.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that was them peaking, and like that was Axile having a reference game career performance against them.
Yeah.
Like that was, in my opinion, the Cloud9 FaZe series was the most competitive Counter-Strike I've seen this entire year. Like it was literally the best series. So if anybody wants to go back to watch that BO3, like that shit is that's fantastic that's fantastic CS. Like that's all I'll say. But let's okay. So let's talk about some other teams. Let's talk about some of the disappointments actually, because we have a lot. There's a lot of teams here and we'll kind of go through these a little bit quick, but like Heroic losing in last place. Like
Group A was just brutal in general.
Yeah, Group A was an extreme group of death.
Yeah, it definitely was. But then you look at who came out the other end of it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's Navi in terms of those death teams. Like this team, this wasn't even just a group of death. It was full of landmines in the form of Movistar Riders and MOUZ. Like what the fuck? It's like these guys are coming from absolutely nowhere. At least with Movistar, you can point to the Valencia performance and say that they ramped up into this because they they worked a little harder to try to win an event on their home soil, and they're carrying that sort of momentum in terms of individual form with them. But with MOUZ, like what the hell? But okay, let's talk about I'm getting off track. Let's talk about the disappointments here. Heroic, the first one, they brought in Yabi. They're like, I looked at the roles kind of closely with this, and it's like they brought in, so Yabi is playing some of Refresh's spots, and mostly that, like they're mostly just trying to do 1-for-1, but he wasn't like a lurker always with Copenhagen Flames. Like he was kind of a map control guy. Like he's one of the guys that like tries to run in pretty early on Ancient B site, for example. He's one of the guys that he was a banana guy on Inferno. And I don't think he was like I don't think he was a lobby lurker on Nuke for Copenhagen Flames, but now they're making him do that too. This is kind of the more I think about this move, the less I actually like it. And I kind of was like, I just kind of like, I think at glance value, I didn't really like think enough about the role change here because it's definitely hurting him and Heroic right now. So.
Yeah, the Ancient Inferno examples were actually exactly what I was going to bring up too, because that was exactly what I thought of when I was thinking of Yabi joining this team.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like, yeah, those roles don't really fit, especially what Heroic need. I think like it just doesn't seem like the right player change to kind of break through the barrier that they were sitting on. So I don't know. I feel like it's just not the right change for this team. And like you said, after seeing them play, I'm even less convinced of it.
Yeah.
It's a really even though it's like their first event, that's like such a rough start to get off to, just like going 0-4 at an event like Cologne.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like a weird change. It doesn't feel like it's given them any more momentum or anything. I mean, like you said, like they've kind of done like a 1-for-1 rule swap, and that's not really what Yabi was doing before. So I don't know. I feel like it's very questionable in terms of where this team is actually heading. I don't think it's like a case like other teams where, you know, oh, they made that change, it's finally going to send them to like the glass ceiling, like they're finally going to be able to win an event. Like I'm almost worried if they're actually going to even be like better at all now, just because, you know, like Refresh wasn't like bad before. Like obviously I think they needed some kind of change, but just making a change for the sake of making a change isn't always going to like work out. And, you know, if Yabi isn't like comfortable, then it's just going to kind of be a downward spiral from here.
No, I just don't really see the protocols with Yabi as much. You know, like changing to a single player on a team that like Heroic that has been together as a 5-man unit for so long, and then not really having somebody to match up the clutch factor. Refresh has so many like famous clutch moments to his name, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that like, okay, maybe he wasn't the most spectacular sort of player statistically, or didn't, you know, do it outside of the clutch factor as much, but you still lost the clutch factor, and now you have to adapt and rejig your game plan because you don't have like a like for like movement over with Yabi. So, and then there was the whole, you know, there was an interview I think with Cadian where he mentioned that, oh yeah, if I have to be wary of the fact that Yabi probably hasn't ever been on a team that is the hated teams, right? He's never been on a heel team, and now he's sort of gonna adapt to that, and maybe I have to worry about the pressure there. I don't think that was a particular factor in this series or in either of the series that Heroic
in the
lost.
studio, it's not like. Yeah.
It's not going to be nearly as
on LAN it'll become a factor,
right? No. And that's also where these Copenhagen Flames players have, like, I would say, the least amount of experience despite their stage time at the recent major. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you're like, I mean, this move is unproven. The player is kind of unproven as well. You know, if you were going to replace somebody with Yabi, you'd think it would be a different kind of player than Refresh. It's just that was my take when I saw it, but I also was kind of surprised they were making changes at all. It felt like they had kind of been forged in the brotherhood of Cadian's smack talk, getting them the heel status. And now whenever you bring another player in, that's going to be a bit... I mean, if they're a more veteran player, maybe it's fine. But it's funny that the team called Heroic is now famous for being a villain. It's just...
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just worried, like, how they're going to find value for Yabi, like, extra value to add over Refresh, because I don't know much about, like, Yabi's comms or Refresh's comms in particular, but I feel like Refresh probably was at least decently vocal, probably had, like, a good influence on the team, especially in, like, the mid-rounds and stuff. He seems like a pretty smart guy. And, you know, obviously I don't know if that's missing from Yabi. He's a much younger player. He probably doesn't have that kind of experience or confidence doing that type of stuff. So if he's not, like, bringing in, like, just, you know, sick fragging, sick mechanics, and, you know, that carry potential, it's like, what else is he actually adding compared to Refresh? And, you know, how is that affecting everyone else on the team?
Yeah, the change. I really kind of dislike if you're essentially a top 5 team, and I think I put like Heroic like top 6, you know, top 7 or whatever.
Maybe they were like they were just like not a placeholder, but like the guard for the top 5. I would say
I feel like when you make a move, like when you're in that like territory in terms of like ranking, in terms of just as a team, it has to be like a move that like just instantly like makes sense to you, right? This feels like more like taking a risk. Like, all right, we got to like change something up. Let's take out Refresh, and then who can we get? Oh, we can get Yabi, right? Compared to like if, you know, maybe like, okay, you know, Valide's on the market, you know, we can get Valide for Refresh, you know, that type of thing, right? And at that point, you probably think, okay, that's just a direct upgrade, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like this just kind of feels like making a change for the sake of, you know, we have to do something type thing.
Yeah, someone brought this up in chat, but I was gonna add to your statement about Refresh's calling that he was very vocal on the team. So like
very vocal lurker, yeah.
Like I feel like the also mid rounding I saw from Heroic was just objectively worse than this at this event, and so like that's something that always kind of like that worked in Heroic's favor a lot in games where they were playing against worse teams, is that they would just outmaneuver them in a mid round. And this is one of those things where like my kind of theory about being a top 5 team is you really should just try to stay the course as long as possible. because so many teams will over time just if they're gonna lose an event, they're gonna get sick of each other, and if you can just hold on, you will rarely degrade in performance unless like some weird out of server shit happens, or but you'll probably still incrementally and just slowly improve, and one day you're just gonna win a tournament. Like you're just right there, you're about to turn the corner on it, and not making a home run signing like a Olaf for Rops. Like you're just that's a huge change. But this is like, this to me almost reads like they just looked at the stats and then they just picked a player from Copenhagen Flames because he was on the market for free or whatever the buyout, like some cheap as fuck buyout. So like
it's also funny you say that because they literally won that LAN in Sweden as a team too.
Yeah,
so like they won that with their roster.
It wasn't like a huge event to win or anything. Like they didn't have to beat like any crazy teams, but that's still good for like your confidence moving forward, right? Like
they beat a team that made playoffs at Cologne.
That still feels like breaking a barrier. You're like, oh shit, like we actually like won an event. Like, you know, we can fucking do this. You know what I mean? And then you can that confidence is still going to somewhat carry into events like Cologne and things like that. So just the fact that the move comes right after that too is just very strange.
I also think it can have the opposite effect. Like the fact that they won that event with Refresh, they make this change and now they go out last. Like you gotta imagine that like in the back of their head. Yeah, exactly. Like in the back of their head, they're gonna be like, maybe we fucked up.
They're gonna sit on this one for an entire player break. So
yeah,
that
was gonna be my next point. Is that now they have to sit here and sort of stew in it, and you know, Refresh just sitting there like, oh yeah, you know, maybe I wasn't the problem, huh? Little Keo treatment.
Refresh's numbers did get poorer at like he was sitting on some events. I think he had like a 0.9 maybe.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's totally fine out in the clear and shouldn't have been cut. I'm not necessarily alleging that. I just think their replacement needed to be more properly vetted for this particular challenge. Not to throw shade on Yabby either. It's just like this is like, you know, when Grim almost was brought on to Liquid. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, let's take this player who's, you know, solid and has proven himself in a completely different role. You know, so
like if you took out Refresh and you put in like Valide, I'd be like, oh, this move is sick. Like, I'm all for this shit.
And Heroic are an org with money now. Like they've changed ownership. You'd think they would be able to spend some cash on that, but I don't know. Like this feels weird. It feels like you're paying to downgrade your team to me, and I don't know why you would do that. So I didn't. Maybe they obviously had a different vision. We'll have to see if it can take shape after the break. So.
Okay. Let's talk about some other disappointments. I mean, personally, I'm not like I feel like I'm in crazy town or something because like I didn't think this was like unusual at all, but nothing to me indicated G2 should have done better than this. Like where G2 fell in this bracket, I'm almost like pleasantly surprised for their sake that they beat ENCE. You know, I didn't think that. I think the biggest loss for them has to have been the Movistar one, but after what we saw with Movistar taking a map off Navi and actually seemingly being in really good form right now, you're disappointed if you're G2 there, but you're not. But when you look at the lower bracket run, you beat ENCE, you lost to NIP. I thought G2 were in some ways the underdogs in both those games. So I'm not really. No. I didn't really. Yeah.
I would say, like, if I was like the GM of G2 right now, I would have no fucking idea like what to do. Like, just in terms of like where they are, the players they have, and then like just their performance. It's not like outright terrible, but it's not as good as it should be, and it just doesn't feel like there's any like clear direction that you could like take the team in to improve it. I don't know. There's such like a strange spot that I just do not envy whoever has to make the decisions for that.
I think the players don't even know what to do. Like just talking to them at like Dallas, they had no idea like what do you change? Because they've been working on some of the same issues for so long. Like even in my interview with Nico, he said like they had some like communication stuff they're working on. They were trying to like get better and kind of like meshing together. And then you see like they kind of just hit that same plateau over and over, and it's like, what are you gonna do? Change? Like nobody wants to remove Jax, so like who else do you change, right? Like that's a big problem. I think it just has to be said. Like no one wants to remove Jax, but there's no other player that you can really look at to change on that roster.
At a certain point, like no amount of like server time or team talks is gonna like completely change the direction of your team. Like
Exactly.
it's just at a certain point, it's just inherently what your team is, and you have to figure out what the fuck to do with it and how to break it.
Yeah.
Like people are calling, or like people are asking to change Alexi, but then who do you change Alexi for? Like you need a replacement, and there's nobody like that you could possibly really point to right now.
2K.
That's a Patreon question, so we'll actually we have to talk about that later about
Okay,
who we replace Alexi with. But yeah, I mean, this G2 lineup is just right now to me. I mean, I don't know. I said it like at the very beginning, and I still am full confidence in saying this, that it really always should have just been Monacy for Jax, and just that's it. Just don't keep Nexa calling. And I know like they were like losing faith in him, or he didn't want to call anymore for their team or whatever. So there's just nothing you can do about that. But like, if that were the change on paper for me, that would have just been the best thing ever. Because I like. Just they would have a better opera, and Mauisnake is just he's a more complete player than Jax is. So that's my send off for G2. Unless Pronogo, you have anything else you want to say on them?
Just it's crazy to me that they knocked ENCE out in the way that they did, and then obviously they fell to NIP. Like they looked like the team in control in the ENCE series for me, and comparing that to their performance in the NIP series is just. It's not night and day, but it's like twilight and day. You know what I mean? It's like you do look like a significantly distinct team at that point. I don't know what happened, and I guess if we're willing to segue over to ENCE briefly, shout out to Snappy at the end of his time on screen at Cologne. Made sure to give that desk a good what for. Showed him who's boss.
What do you do?
Just slam the table a million times.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
When you're,
I don't want to flimsy armrest on the chair, not even the table.
Okay, great. Yeah, fact checked by note. Yeah, but
that's the better thing to hit than the table.
I guess so. It's just to me, it's like you got to save that for in the privacy of your own room. I think. I don't know. Like you're the leader, man. I don't want to talk shit too much on him. Obviously, he's recovered from a loss. He's on the player break now. He's probably trying to put it out of his mind, but. It's just like to me.
That wasn't even at the end of the second map. That was at the end of Dust 2.
Oh, okay. I just saw the clip, no context, to be honest. So I totally missed that part. Yeah, I thought that was after they had been eliminated. But no, okay. So in that case, it's even more weird. It's like, what a vibe you're putting into the next map. Then I don't know. It's just you might think about that from a boisterous young player. It's good to see passion on the one side if you want to look at the silver lining. But to me, it's just like you got some younger players on your team that are still gelling and still learning how to be at a top team, and who probably still can't believe they're in the third best team in the world. And you kind of need to focus them up a little bit more, probably. So just my 2 cents from some guy who's never played at the top level of Counter-Strike. So
it's a great disclaimer there at the end. Okay. I mean, I'll put it like this. I think that I don't know. Them losing a NIP was never out of I really thought NIP were the favorites in that series, so I didn't think that was that bad of a loss. But I get how you're characterizing it, where it's like you beat what is supposed to be a top 4 team in the world in ENCE, and then you lose to a top 8 team in NIP. So, but like I don't think there's like that big of a difference in terms of force.
It's more like on paper you would want G2 to consistently be at a level where they should be the favorites.
Like, look at what you're saying, Maui, is that G2 are an underdog against a top 8 team, which means G2 are less than top 8 in the world, which doesn't make any sense when you look at this lineup, and it includes Nico and Mauisnake. Like, the weirdest thing about this lineup for me is that the unknown factor of Mauisnake has totally worked. Everybody's happy with Mauisake's performance, and yet it's like the more veteran players like Alexi B or whatever are the ones who are being called into question. But even then, it's like, I don't even know that that's the answer, right? We were just saying, like, even if you decide, okay, it is the answer, you got nobody to replace him with. So, like, what do you even do? Yeah, it's a nightmare, you know?
By the way, news update, HLTV rankings just came out. Big is number 7 in the world.
Oh shit!
They're almost there. They are almost there. And but either way, that's just for me.
Waiting for the day to get back to number 1.
They're
2 spots away, dude. God damn it! But
breaking news: Mauisnake's prediction is coming true.
Wait, Navi are back to number 1 too.
Yeah, Navi are number 1 on that. Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting, huh?
By 20 points.
Liquid will be top 5 again after they win Cologne. So.
Liquid are gonna jump up really far when the Cologne results are updated in this. Big will probably fall too because and no, actually I don't know. No, Nip will pass. Nip will pass Big and whatever. Either way, we can. This is kind of weird because the rankings don't include Cologne, which is live. You know, like that's how they do it. So whatever. What is it? So let's talk. Okay, no, another team I want to talk about is Vitality because once again, this team, well, they faced the same wrath of Movistar Riders, and they lost to Movistar twice, by the way. They lost to them in the play-in, and they lost to them now in the upper bracket. But Vitality is still just not putting it together. Like
they should be in playoffs, man. I am so like that nuke CT side on the third map against Movistar is so disappointing.
Oh my god! Oh, that was really bad. Yeah, that what they did there, like they were like rotating poorly. They were like not understanding what was available to Movistar.
Like seven T rounds on nuke T side at the moment is really fucking good.
Yeah,
and like you should be able to close that out. So to not even get to like round 30 on that, like 16-12, like that was so disappointing.
Yeah, that needed to be stated. Yeah, that was one game I was taking a really close look at, the Movistar Vitality one, and I think that Movistar played fantastic, but I also think like that was that's a huge indictment on the lack of progress this team has made in terms of like macro understanding like the comms. Basically the comms must not have been great for Vitality there to let that one fall or slip in the way that it did for them, because Movistar were just exploiting so many little holes, and it almost was like really, like, Vitality, you don't know this is happening right now? Like, what? Why are people who is not saying stuff? Like, someone's not saying stuff. I think, and it could be ZywOo. It could be. I don't know.
I didn't even notice, but it was similar. They had like a similar CT side against MOUZ on Nuke, where they only got five. They only got 5 CT rounds. Like, I don't know how they're struggling so much on Nuke CT side, but obviously that's very rotation dependent. They obviously don't seem very comfortable with each other across the map.
Yeah, I think that's still the biggest flaw for me with this team. But okay, let's do this. Who do you guys think is more disappointed, or what in your eyes? What is not even? Don't try to put yourself in their shoes. Who are you more disappointed in for this Vitality or G2 in terms of the overall state of the team right now?
I still think it's G2 for me.
Okay,
that's a hard question, actually. I think Vitality is just a disappointment in general, but like if you're going overall state of the team, Vitality, I would say G2 are like disappointing in results. I would say like, in terms of like not delivering when they should have all the pieces. I think Vitality have just not delivered since the start of the year, basically. Whereas G2 have at least like had a couple of deeper runs. Vitality are just like not playing up to the level that anybody expected, and they aren't able to really like break that barrier at all. So for me, they're the most disappointing out of the two.
Yeah, the pedigree of the lineup on paper on Vitality is way more demanding of results as well. And it's almost like, I guess I'm more disappointed if I take a moment to reflect on it, because I was never in on Vitality and I never thought that they would have a chance. And I thought not that they would never have a chance. It's more like, I never thought that in the moment they looked like title contenders. I thought maybe they could shape up and get to that point eventually. But I never gave them the credit of like, oh yeah, you guys can win the tournament. Whereas G2, at least in some points, like what Note was saying, they looked like they could maybe not win, but contest, at least get to deep runs in playoffs or whatever, which again is disappointing relative to what you would expect from a major finalist team or the organization at the very least. So yeah, that's a tough question, but I probably have to edge it out to Vitality just because I've just so easily dismissed them. And it's not even been like analyst hubris. It's just been like, that's what you should do when you look at this team, So that's probably more disappointing for a team that has names like Dupree, Magus, Xonic, Apex, ZywOo. Like, come on, bro. Basically everybody but Suda.
The current standing between these two teams this year is like just against each other. They've played 4 series total, and they've both won 2 series against each other. The map total favors G2, but in terms of, that's not really like what my question was. I just stated that's just a fact. But I actually, yeah, I think that the thing is with me, I'm like really like I'm just, oh god, like I think someone actually just said this in chat, and it literally was what I was thinking. Also, is like they said Vitality is clear why they failed. Rushel20 wrote, yeah, the Vitality is clear why they failed because it's of the international thing, because of switching to English, and then G2 just sucks.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. That's like I felt like Vitality from the start had more like obstacles to overcome, whereas
Yeah.
I felt like G2 should have been like instantly just like contending. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of thought
That's
G2
true.
would have figured it out more by now than Vitality has. And in terms of world ranking at this very second, Vitality's one spot higher, but I feel like actually Vitality had to work through some harder stuff already. So I'm actually, in a way, I can hold out a little bit more for Vitality because I know they're just gonna get better at communicating. But with G2, it's actually like more of a structural and like how they play that gets me kind of frustrated, because it's like, man, you guys like really use too much utility early in rounds, or like you really like burn, like I don't know, like the timing on every round just feels kind of bad. Like pacing is like been for me the worst part about G2. Like they never seem to know, should they rush? Should they be slow playing this? Should they burn nades? Should they try to watch them burn the other team burn nades? Like always, it's the wrong choice. It's just it's too obvious now. And even though they had some really great T side win percentages, I'm losing faith in that. Like this is, I feel like now unfortunately I'm joining the just get rid of Jax and Alexi at this point. But I don't. Yeah, I just don't. I just can't. Like keep Monacy, keep Jax, keep Nico. The firepower is too freaking crazy. Wait, oh no. Keep Hunter, Nico, and Monacy. Keep those three. That's an insane trio. But you need to do something about what's going on the support side of this roster, which sucks.
I think to that point though, like for me, one of the main reasons Vitality is more disappointing is because I still see their only win condition as Ziwu, like, and what else? Like that's it. Whereas G2, at least, like you have games where Nico's like fragging, you have games where Hunter's fragging, you have games where Monacy's fragging. Like you do see the individual pieces there, and I don't think that's enough for them to be a disappointment over Vitality, who've like still haven't changed their win conditions have just gotten worse. And we're 6 months into the lineup at this point, and I think like if you compare where the two teams are at, yes, G2 like in terms of star power, in terms of like original expectations, yes, they've failed to deliver. But I still think that like in terms of overall performance and results for what we expected from these two lineups at the start of the year, Vitality have failed to deliver way more than G2 have like as to where they should be at this point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 months is a lot of time. Even if the lineup like switched to being international, I think that's like with the pedigree of some of the players on this roster, it's just like that's a lot of time to not have like some decent results, I think.
It's kind of a knock against Zonic's career too, don't you guys think? Like, you know, you came from the legendary Astralis, and now he's not able to make this team work. And you know, maybe you say, okay, well, international teams are a big challenge, and you're probably that's probably correct. But it still feels like, you know, one of the GOAT coach, basically. You know, it's disappointing, I guess, in that aspect too. Whereas, you know, Xtaz, on the other hand, coaching wise, if we're going to factor that into who's more disappointing, which is just the more we talk about it, the funnier the question is. It just reminds me of this is a higher tier version of when the old MIBR and old ENCE lineups were facing off in some Battle of the Ages best of 3, and everybody was saying, yeah, loser disband. So that's what it makes me think.
Loser disband. That's a good one. Okay, let's see what other teams fell in the group stage here that we can be mad about. I'm not really mad at Spirit, just because I don't think like they're that good. Like,
we didn't comment on this because it's been a while since the last episode. But how about them transfer listing their star opper? How about that? I guess that's due to the whole conflict, but still.
Yeah, Dexter wanted to join a team that's like European based or Navi, basically. Well, that's European based, but I mean, he wants to join.
I think he just didn't want to move to Serbia as quickly as Spirit wanted as well. And I think like I'm sure there's like other reasons from like it's kind of implied that wasn't the only reason by like in other talking points that I've seen, at least from analysts and whatnot. But I don't know how that broke down really. I didn't expect much from them if they're losing their like 1.28 rated star opper going into this event. So I would say like Spirit actually like they didn't I wouldn't say they impressed me, but they like actually played better than I thought considering they lost Exeter. Like Patsy stepped up in a couple of crucial series because Patsy's sick. But outside of Spirit, I would say like Outsiders, not really a disappointment. I don't actually hold any weight to them anymore. Like after using YEKINDAR, after losing the YEKINDAR, I'm like, okay,
I sold all my Outsider stock as soon as that happened. Yeah.
One team I would say, I don't know if I'd say I'm like disappointed in them, but I feel like they're just out of wall is Furia. It's hard to say that like I'm like disappointed with the result of this event, but like I also feel like they still are just like in the exact same place that they've been, and they don't really seem to be moving like up or like improving much. It's kind of disappointing to see.
The way I framed Furia discussion recently was that I think that Furia is actually kind of behind the meta strategy wise. Yes. I feel like I've seen them kind of recycle strats for too long now, which I don't think is like really good. I think they need to like just more drastically revamp their playbook. And Art can still be aggressive, but I think he just needs to do it in like more refined ways. Like, so I right now with Furia, I really thought that them making it. I would straight up say I'm not disappointed in them because I thought after watching them at Valencia, I was like, this team needs a break so badly. Like, I don't think they're that bad, but they just seem burnt out or something. Like, they just probably had done too much shit lately because they were horrible at Valencia. And then at this one,
say, it definitely could have been worse at this event than they played. So
yeah, beating Outsiders in Spirit sort of gave them a little bit of a road to redemption. And if they didn't beat Liquid, but the fact that they pushed Liquid was for a Liquid that's in this great of form right now. It's like that's a bit of a decent send off for Furia. Although I'm sure they would have wanted to make playoffs, and before Valencia, I bet they expected they'd have made a playoff. They would have made playoffs of Cologne, especially when you look at their group. Like this group is not that hard. Like it shouldn't have been that hard, but with Liquid kind of being that really dark horse that kind of came into this tournament out of nowhere, there's room to believe like with FaZe and C9 you wouldn't have made it through the group too. But
I wouldn't say like Furia needs to make any changes at the moment. I think you kind of give it till like the second half of the year and kind of see where you go. Like obviously with the Brazil major coming up, who knows how that could affect them. But like if they're like still in like the exact same place by the end of the year, I think they definitely have to kind of like really kind of look at themselves in the mirror and figure out like where they're going and how they can actually break past the ceiling. But we'll see how the second half of the year goes. Maybe they'll get a Brazil buff.
Yeah.
It's also just funny that like I agree with you that they're playing a little bit out of meta. It's just really funny that Art's interview was like, I think we need to hold W more.
Yeah,
I know.
I
know.
The most Art response possible. Just we didn't hold W enough. Yeah, we got to do that some more.
I feel like they need to save more. Actually, like sometimes they try like unwinnable retakes and shit, and I'm like,
so many of them.
They think they're playing Valorant.
Yeah, they think they have to go for it every round. It's like, no, the money doesn't work like that. You could get another gun round out of this half if you just saved like 2 more times. You know, like just it's a 2v4. Like stop going for it.
And it does
3v4 Inferno B site. You're not retaking this.
It's a 4v4. It's a 5v5.
And take your hands off your keyboard.
Yeah, just unplug the mouse right now. You know, just walk away.
The worst part is sometimes they're not even going for it. They're just like sitting there like, oh, let me see if I'll get an exit. But then you're like 3 players are exiting towards you, and you're just
then they die.
Around. Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of like not going for the round, but then sitting right there? Like, come on,
choosing the worst option there. It's
how to lose everything. Yeah, the round, the gun. Yeah,
and it's not like they're sitting on like 10K money. They have like $50.
The other team has like 7K each.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I think that like would be probably one of the easiest little fixes to Furia is just slightly better money management at the end of rounds. Like this would net them like this could have changed the Liquid series because I think I remember like they went for like 2 retakes and they just like got shit on and it was like, bro, if you just had more guns on round 30 or whatever, maybe this doesn't go to OT and actually you just close this out or bring it back. But
so two small fixes for Furia. So on CT side, save a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then on T side, add 2 Navi strats on each map where you don't hit the site until 20 seconds left.
Yeah. It's always fun to see teams just copy paste Navi strats actually, and then they just don't work that well. Imperial was doing that, by the way. Like they were just trying to copy paste strats, and it was like, you guys just aren't as good.
Yeah, you didn't copy paste the results, unfortunately. There.
Yeah, you don't have bit, you don't have electronic. I'm sorry, and Fallen, you're not simple, so strat's just not that good like that. Okay. Well, did we talk about Cloud9? We didn't, right?
Not yet.
No. So, well, this team, I feel like we could talk about for such a long time, and Mix legally is obligated to not talk about shit about Cloud9. So, no, I'm just actually, does it even matter, Mix? Like, if you just shit on this C9 roster, are you like, does this violate your contract in some way with the team? You know,
I can talk about them all I want.
Okay, all right. So, like, Nafany is fraudulent once again. He's just so, dude. He was such a problem in this series versus Liquid.
Right back on the train.
He's such a problem. He was so bad. He was so awful. That decision to double op on T-side Dusty was the worst shit I have seen from him in a while, and I've seen some dumb shit from him before, and I just don't like. That was game losing. That cost them everything in this series, is to double op, because then they lost one round because they had to save because they had two ops. And then we saw Nafany on the A site in a post plant and he whiffed like 5 shots. So it was like, why did you pick up this fucking gun? Like, it's ruined everything for everybody.
They're also once again on the bottom of the leaderboard in flash assists.
Yep, last place in flash assists once again. Like, the story does not, the script doesn't change at all.
It's actually on T side. It's really bad. Like how far last they are. On CT side, it's not as bad. They're actually like in the middle.
Yeah,
ENCE just doesn't use flashes on CT side apparently, from what I'm looking at. But on
yeah,
T side, it's really bad for C9.
Yeah, C9's T-side flash assist 0.3 per round. Like, you're basically getting 2 flash assist kills per half on T-side. Like, That's crazy. That is insane, you know? I can't. And like, what's funny is they don't even, they get those on pistol rounds, I've noticed. They get the flash assist on pistol rounds. Okay.
Yeah.
C9.
I don't know. I don't think there's more to add, man. They're just like it's just depressing.
Yeah. What even is their win condition if they have so few flash assists and so few double ops? Yeah, okay.
It's called Axile.
Yeah, Shiro gets off kills and Axel jiggle peeks and one taps.
C9 Win did a great video. If anybody, I'll
featuring you, so of course it's great. Yeah. You know.
No. What he said after my statement was like really good information. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll plug it in chat right now, actually. But
he does a lot of cool stuff. He has really good content.
Yeah, he does. Well, how about this? I'll pose this to you guys. Do you guys think the when is the mental fragility not going to be a problem for Cloud9 or Nafany, or what needs to change? Like on that regard.
It's a tough question because it seems so ingrained to the team now, and it's one of those things where I kept thinking that I was being too harsh when I was saying Cloud9 are going to crumble at LAN or Studio or whatever. And then, they would have some overperformances. Obviously, the Dallas run is one example of that. But now I feel kind of confident in calling those overperformances. And maybe that's also too early to say because it's so soon after Dallas. But this tournament in particular, there was no, Richard Lewis article about Hobbit. There was no changing organizations in the middle of the event. Like, there were no extenuating circumstances that we as fans and pundits and analysts are aware of that can explain how you guys don't know how to throw a flashbang. Like, what is going on? You know what I mean? So that's just one of those things to me that it doesn't add up. I mean, this team has been at the top for so long in terms of like the uppermost echelon of Counter-Strike, getting access to scrims with the best teams, getting regular stage time practice, or at least match practice, game practice with some of the best teams as well.
That team is the best scrim team in the world. And they have been since Gambit Youngsters. I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah. So maybe there's a little bit of weird mismatch there. I don't know. Like, what would you say actually about the fact that they are scrim gods, but they don't show up on the actual matches sometimes? Like, can you draw a through line through these two experiences? Is it just the pressure? Because that almost feels too reductive to say as like the reason why a potentially great team is not living up to the billing. but maybe it's true.
It was a little weird seeing them boot camp in the old Gambit headquarters, by the way, for Rubet. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I was like, oh, that looks kind of weird.
Yeah, when your ex-wife shares a house with you.
Yeah. Obviously, I think the obvious main thing that is currently missing at the moment, and the reason they're not as comfortable, is the polo shirts. Not released yet.
Of course.
Hard to feel comfortable without those polos.
Yeah, they're not really a jersey type of team, huh? Because they like it kind of is too revealing.
I'm just saying, if MOUZ brought back the varsity jackets, they would have made playoffs at every event this year. So
they need it for this one. So you're like, bring it on the stage. Yeah,
bring it on the stage.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Oh God, I'm looking now even more at their flash stats for like per person, and there like no one has above 2 seconds of opponent's flash per round. Like if you kind of look at the like flash stats, say on HLTV per players, like Chopper, OC, Jame, Alexi B, all these guys have like 2.77. They're blinding opponents for over 2 seconds per round with their flashes on average. And the highest and I know like, and C9 Win did this very well. He showed like, okay, they use flashes sometimes to push people off angles, and then they take that space and let opponents try to reclaim that space. But because like the opponents will be so devoid of information, they like feel like they need to react. But like they don't even necessarily throw successful flashes in terms of just blinding people. Like it's so crazy to me. It's just so unreasonable that the team hit the peaks that they did without using one of the most key pieces of utility in the game at a high level. Like it feels like if this team just had a slightly strategic change, which is why I'm calling for Nafity's head all the time, they could be insane. Because when you have Shiro and Axile as good as they are as players, why is this team not just like top 4 every event? Like it's so insane to me. Have you seen any interviews lately with this team, like with Nafany or anything like that, like that has illuminated some of these topics? Because he did get kind of like reflective in the HLTV one, like about like just it was his fault, or was it HLTV?
No, it was HLTV. I actually didn't read that interview. That was one of the few ones that I didn't read from this weekend.
Okay.
Or from this last week. But yeah, I haven't caught any of the interviews with them yet. All of their matches were a little bit too early for me, so when the post match was happening, I wasn't.
Actually,
one of them.
That interview, the article that about Nafany's quote, "If someone wants to find someone to blame, it is obviously me." They actually just quoted that from his interview with Freya, so it wasn't actually a.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Actually, then I saw that interview, so that wasn't crazy, but okay. Yeah, C9 fragile. They broke under the pressure. What else? Who else? I don't know. I'm not really like. Okay, I think that's pretty satisfactory. Unless there's another team that's eliminated, you guys really want to talk about. I think that's pretty much it, though.
Let's talk about complexity.
Oh my god,
playing. Yeah, this was like a good junior event, by the way. Like he actually did okay. Just saying, but
still eliminated 13th to 16th. By the way,
still last place. By the way,
still last.
They're first place in our hearts and first place at giving interview quotes. So that's pretty good. I did like all the fact that thread got posted to the subreddit where they were talking about. It was Junior's quote saying that I think every opper should play the way that I play, something to that effect. You're asking for it, bro. You're literally like hooking yourself to the ceiling and then covering yourself with pinata tape, dude.
I feel bad because obviously, like it's kind of taken like out of context in terms of, like what he means, right?
Yeah,
but.
No, of course, the whole thing is taken out of context. They just look at the quote
for his form.
It's so out of context.
You just got to be careful, like, still with what you're saying in any interview, especially at this point. Like, I don't know.
Oh man. When as soon as he saw that was the headline, he must have known.
Okay.
That's it. That's all of complexity. So, yeah.
The people want Nip. Wait. Okay, I will have to say this about complexity with like Floppy's interview where he's like, I was on 3 hours of sleep, so I took 100 milligram caffeine and
Oh my god.
200 milligrams of L-carnitine or whatever the fuck it's your Korean, whatever. It's
that's such a Ricky moment.
Not,
Holy
shit.
shit.
He took
No,
Rhiannon, which is like it stops you from being, it stops jitters from caffeine. But
is that
like,
stuff already in Monster Energy? Like, is that the?
No.
Is that no? It's not. Okay.
No, there's very few drinks on the market that actually package it.
It's like the way he phrases it. He makes it sound like he's doing illicit drug, like he's like a hard drug user or something like that. So oh no, it's just 100 milligram caffeine and like if you just say the full names of drugs, also they just sound way crazier. It's like I'm just taking a 50 milligram antihistamine in the morning, and I'm also taking like 75 milligram just like I have some like stuffy nose shit. Phenylephrine. If I'm taking 10 milligrams of phenylephrine every day, it's like people are gonna think you're like doing drugs or something, but you're just like, no, this is just really casual stuff that's over the counter. It's not really that.
I think if any of the members of that team know how to phrase interview quotes, it's definitely Ricky.
It's just like, don't phrase it like that, please. Like, you don't even have to say that you took that, honestly. Like, it's not even anybody's business. Like, it's like, what is the active ingredient in, like, Tylenol, for example? Like, just saying the scientific name.
Acetaminophen or something? Yeah.
That's just so on brand for Floppy, though.
Yeah,
like,
I know. It's funny. Okay. The people want to talk about Nip. I want to hear if you guys have anything to say about Nip first, because I watch Nip pretty closely, but let's I
didn't really see them, and from what I look at, I feel like they performed exactly how I would have expected almost. So
yeah,
aside from the loss to MOUZ, I guess.
Yeah, until that loss to MOUZ, you're kind of like, this looks pretty good. This looks all right for them, right? Like, you lose to Navi, it's expected, and then you then they beat G2. They beat Heroic. They beat G2. It felt like they did all the hard work, and then they got a little complacent against MOUZ. They actually were up 9-1 on Inferno against MOUZ, and they lost. And I just want to say that the way the downfall began when they were up 9-1, they were they planted the bomb on A site, and the bomb radius is just massive now. Rez didn't get far enough away, and I kind of knew he didn't get far enough away, and I was like, Rez is gonna die here, and he was like in apartments or something like that. I was like, you're not gonna survive this bomb blast, and he died, and he just kind of like laughed and smiled, and I was kind of like, this game's not over. Like you can lose this game still. Like, MOUZ is really good at this tournament, and they lost they were up 9-1. They won 3 of the next 18 rounds just after that, and it was like. They checked that. They thought they won. They just thought they won too early in that game. And that was really disappointing because I think MOUZ getting to the playoffs is just so weird. It's just it's really strange.
The funniest thing is MOUZ getting to the playoffs is weirder to me than Movistar Riders getting to the playoffs.
For sure.
It has to me, that's totally like, what? Cologne? Are you sure that you mean they qualified through the play-in? Wow, congrats. That's impressive results for MOUZ. But no, they actually got it all the way. So
Thorin had a really good tweet actually, where he was basically like, he took a picture of the playoff bracket of like the quarterfinal. He's like, so nice to see the bracket for the Summer Sweet Summer Cup is out. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. I mean, kind of accurate though.
No, that's what it feels. It feels like when you see that kind of bracket, it's like, oh, you invited some top teams to your playoffs, and then you got some people who qualified. Like, oh, that's crazy. But no, this is actually Cologne boys. So yeah, pretty.
It's good to see. I mean, I don't know if we're still talking about NIP or MOUZ, but I do like the in theory, like the structure of MOUZ and like how they shape up in terms of like Torzi, BMAS, and Frozen, like their 3 stars, like that seems pretty solidified. They have a great like role player in JDC, like kind of like filling the gaps. And so obviously the only question for the last few months, at least for me especially, has been Dexter. And I mean, I'm not like sold on Dexter still, just for this one event, but it's good to see them actually like put the pieces together and actually have like a decent event.
Yes, I mean, I've watched MOUZ really closely at this event because I wanted to see why this is happening. They changed their T side like entirely. they made JDC's kind of like a pack entry player now, and they also at basic, like they'll default for 50 seconds and then they'll just group and hit a bomb site together. It's really basic Counter-Strike, but it works. And it's I think people are just getting caught off guard because they're doing things really fast. And I think like a lot of teams right now in the meta are, winding that clock down to 30 seconds before they do a lot of their hits. And they're doing it so early in the round that it's almost like you can't even you can't even mess up. Like you can't it's like they don't even die in the defaults because the default's they just keep it so short, and then they just hit a bomb site, and it's like, oh, like teams are like, we were holding our nades, but you're already here, so that's cool. You're in our faces already. I think what is the nightmare grand finals for you guys? What is the worst possible grand finals that could happen?
Movistar Riders MOUZ.
Pretty much, yeah. Because this is a team that, like, okay, Movistar's got the regional fan base from Spain, but then MOUZ has, like, are there MOUZ fans? Besides the, like, lunatics with the flare?
I feel like the worst final would be, like, Navi versus Movistar Riders. So then I feel like you get to the final, it's probably just a blowout.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Even though Movistar played them, like, pretty decently. In like the upper bracket final, I'm not sure how that would go in an actual finals on the stage of like Cologne. So I don't know. I feel like if it was like Movistar versus MOUZ in the finals of Cologne, I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen, but I'm excited for it.
yeah, that's the thing. I think the obvious answer is Movistar MOUZ because you're like maybe you think it's low quality, but I think those teams would be really evenly matched. But so it might actually reach 5 maps. But if it's like FaZe MOUZ, I think that's just really bad because FaZe should just destroy them every day of the week. I'll say this about MOUZ. Despite how much they ruin this tournament, I am very much so happy for seeing the Academy League prosper or continue to churn out success stories. I think that's really cool. Cyclone, JDC, and Torzi obviously being the guys that are now the remaining Academy. Well, yeah, I guess I don't consider Bit Academy play level or whatever because he didn't play in the Academy League, but like I guess he's also from the Academy type of system. So, but yeah, he was actually on the like Navi junior team for a long ass time, by the way. But like over a year.
A Liquid Astralis final where Team Liquid has the better opera. What a time.
Dude, that would I actually think in a way, as long as Astralis and Liquid win their quarterfinals matches, I don't think they're really. I think we all want to see Navi FaZe grand final, but like I wouldn't really mind seeing Liquid or Astralis in a grand finals right now. I think it'd just be there's a lot of Liquid bias when I say that, like NA bias, but like I just don't think you can really always count Astralis out in these kind of games. It seems like they just like glaive on a stage is really terrifying for people. So I don't know. That'd be kind of cool, but Liquid Astralis would be the like dream. That'd be kind of a dream grand finals.
I definitely think it's possible for like I wouldn't say it's like likely at all for one or both of them to reach the finals, but I wouldn't say like Navi and FaZe are like invincible if Liquid and Astralis win their quarterfinals, right? Like I'd say Navi and FaZe are like the clear 2 favorites, and I'd be surprised if it's not them in the finals, but they're definitely not like unbeatable, especially in the current states with Navi still having a stand-in. FaZe obviously looks a lot better, but they still have their struggles the past few months, and that can always rear its head once again. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird bracket in general because there's actually room for both the peaking underdog teams, Movistar and well, I guess you could even apply that label to Liquid, but Movistar and MOUZ could definitely be on track to make it to semis at one of the biggest events of the whole circuit, which is crazy to think about, and nobody would believe you if you said that earlier. So, it really depends. I think a lot of my, maybe not my enjoyment of the tournament, but a lot of what I think the semifinal quality hinges on whether or not Astralis and Liquid make it through to the next phase, because I do feel like there's a pretty huge mismatch between those, like their opponents and them anyway, but there's a bigger gulf between, Navi MOUZ and FaZe Movistar than there is like FaZe Liquid and Navi Astralis, you know what I mean? So That's probably that's the only thing that I would say that I'm a little bit concerned about, is that if it does go the way of the underdogs in these quarterfinals, the whole rest of the tournament feels a little bit whack. So, until we get to the grand finals at least, and then we can just take the whole day off, I guess, because it's the best of 5.
Navi MOUZ is just...
It's not a semifinal. It's not a Cologne semifinal. Come on.
It's not.
Even Navi Astralis sounds exciting. Navi MOUZ sounds.
It does. Navi Astralis does sound exciting, even though reality says that today Astralis aren't that good, but like Astralis might be getting good. Like the way that they played that group stage was pretty convincing, actually. So, beating Cloud9, beating like Cloud9 and Furia are super legit wins for Astralis to be getting to the playoffs. Even though they only had to win 2 BO3s, those are ones that they were the heavy underdogs in both, I'd say. Well, maybe not against the current form of Furia, but like they were underdogs in the Cloud9 one for sure.
Yeah. It's not like they got shit on against FaZe, so.
Right. Yeah. This tournament is just honestly really strange because of what happened with MOUZ. I think, like, if it were one more team in here that was like a top 10 team, like an NIP, Heroic, take your pick, G2 Vitality, whatever, this tournament would look kind of sick on paper. Yeah. But just because of MOUZ, it just feels like, what the hell?
Man, Astralis Vitality like on the stage would have been a lot of fun.
Even I think Astralis Vitality, Astralis G2, Astralis NIP, like all of those sound so much better. But anything? How about let's talk about some individuals at this event. Did any players from particular teams catch your guys' eye as like, oh, I like watching this?
I mean, not like this particular tourney, and like he's been pretty good for a while, but one thing I've been pretty impressed with like how Brolin's been playing just in general in NIP.
I love Brolin.
Feels like I feel like he really kind of struggled with himself in Fnatic. I think maybe just struggled like to fit in with the team and like the direction they were going. And so kind of seeing him in NIP and seeing him like frag out playing really well, it's just been nice. And who knows how good NIP could be if they had another player that was a consistent star of some kind. Maybe an opera or something. I don't know. Yeah. But, we'll see, I guess.
I'll say that Esatag kind of delivered rounds to NIP actually in their Heroic series. It was kind of surprising. He was actually getting way more aggressive, but then he kind of stopped doing that for the rest of the whole tournament. It was like, hey, let me try this style out that I know every opera should really be doing. And then it worked. And then he was like, I didn't like that. But it's like, you won. Why'd you stop? So that's weird. That's strange. But I think I liked who did I like? Well, I like Mopaz a lot. I think that guy is sick.
Mopaz played pretty well.
Yeah.
It was between Mopaz and Sunpius, two players that I actually enjoyed watching a lot in the early portions of this bracket.
Yeah.
I know they went out pretty fast, but I am still pretty impressed with Try and how he played at this tournament.
Oh, we haven't even talked about 0 Nation at all. What do you guys think of this whole roster move?
I like it a lot more than the last year's 0 Nation roster. So
yeah. I'm one of the biggest taco haters out there, and I actually kind of love this roster. I actually think this is pretty sick. Think that now that the Godsent trio there has an opper that they don't have to be giving it to Taco or Dumao or Lado or whatever, think that they are just straight up better. The main question now for me is coldzera going to lift himself to even remotely what his name value indicates, because he's pretty frequently a huge weak link for this team. You brush aside what Taco's outputting statistically because he's the leader, and actually their style looks good sometimes. Like, people are figuring out their style, but I talked to Kerrigan actually about when they played against 0 Nation because they had a pretty close Ancient game, and he said that Kerrigan was kind of mad when he described what it was like to play against 0 Nation, because he was like, yeah, we got faked, and we don't usually get faked like that, and we're never going to get faked like that again, kind of thing. It was like, oh, not word for that was me paraphrasing, but he was definitely like if it's kind of like if they studied 00 Nation, he doesn't. I don't think that would have happened. But they're
Well, I definitely like Taco calling more than Cold Zero. So
Yep.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
They look way better, and Godsend looked better than 00 Nation did. But yeah.
I wonder if they would be a little bit like. I wonder if they'd be a bit better if they got Henny instead of Try. Like, I don't know if that would be an upgrade, but like, just in terms of like current level, I wonder if that would have changed anything.
I don't know. I really
like Try is really good, and I think he has a lot of potential for the future. And from what this team's currently doing, it looks like that's kind of what they're aiming at. They're not like looking for short-term success. So as far as like long-term viability is concerned, I think Try is a better choice. But I think they were also trying to sell him, at least according to reports. Like they were trying to sell him back to 9Z, but the buyout was too big, so they kept him. So like for me, that's a little weird because it seems like that wasn't originally part of their plan.
Puts a chip on his shoulder.
I feel like overall there's probably just less drama with Try than there was Henny. I mean, I don't know, like especially these days, if Henny's still on the I want to play with my brother all the time. And
true, they could have cut
ends up coming back.
Yeah, they cut Lato for Lucas.
No, what if they got 2 months? They get rid of Cold and bring in Lucas, and they bring in Henny for Try. No,
I hate it. Stop. To your point about Cold, though, I don't think he has to be like Cold is like at this point the fourth fragger for this team. I find like he, as long as he's kind of doing for me, like he has to fill that kind of clutching FN like old FNX Zipix kind of like role more than anything, because then Lato's playing pretty well. You obviously have like Dumao who's fragging out for them. So then like you don't really need Cold to be the player who's gonna step up and be like the difference maker.
Right. I'll say one stat that kind of jumped out to me for Cold though is that at this event he's the only person on the team that had like a sub 1.0 KD on CT side. Like he was kind of like, and that's kind of where. Like on T side, I don't need him to be doing anything crazy, but I need him to hold his spots on CT side. That's kind of my main thing. I just hate when players. Just gonna take this out of context. I just hate when players get skinny, man. just need them to stay fat, man. Just stay unhealthy. Just don't ever give in to the pressure of actually becoming a well-rounded hero.
Taking care of your body, yeah.
It's not worth it. You lose all your skill. Just stop.
Act skinny, stay fat. Is that the message from Mauisnake?
Yeah. Act skinny. Carry yourself like a skinny guy, but just be the fat guy that you want to be.
Oh, how else are you going to top frag, right? So,
don't take my advice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's got to be it, right? We covered like every freaking team, right? Did we not talk about anybody? Surely not.
Astralis.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you guys get to see much of them? I have thoughts about them, but I'd like to I'd open the floor up.
I just feel like with MOUZ, except to a lesser degree with Astralis, it feels like they're fool's gold, and I'm waiting for them to turn back into the pumpkin. But I've been saying that for basically this whole post-device era of Astralis, so maybe they'll prove me wrong in an emphatic fashion by recreating some 2017 era grand finals. We'll see.
Okay, I guess people are typing. We didn't really talk about Navi. I mean, I think Navi. Okay. Let's just do this question to talk about Navi and FaZe at the same time. Who do you guys think is going to win the event? Nix, go first. Who do you think is going to win the
event? Team Liquid.
Oh my god.
Okay, all right. You can think that. That's fine. You can believe that. 150 hours past 2 weeks. Actually, you can win an event. You can. It's actually possible.
I am huffing some insane copium right now. I'm always on the OC copium, so.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Right. Listen, if I don't believe, then what's the point?
Okay. All right. No, that's how I actually celebrate Christmas too. If you don't believe in Santa, why are you here?
Yeah.
No, what's your who do you think?
I'll take Navi.
Yeah, okay.
Actually.
Why?
It'll be close.
Why Navi over FaZe though?
Actually, hold on. It's a best of 5 final. I changed my mind. I'm gonna take FaZe just for the pure depth and map pool and overall like game plan that they're gonna have going into that. I think that the fact that FaZe are so focused going into this event and have put it on like their top list. I mean, all teams have it on their top list, but like the fact that they've said that they're prioritizing it that much makes me like actually think that they're gonna take this if it's like that much more in depth in terms of their map pool.
Yeah, your final answer.
You have SDY coming in. And I don't think that they would have had enough time to like refine 5 maps to that level compared to a team like those.
So you think if this were a BO3, they would just beat FaZe?
2-1 probably, but yeah.
Dude, they just absolutely shit on FaZe at Blast. Like, literally 16-6, 16-1. Dust to an Inferno. But you think the 5 maps is gonna change this a lot? And I guess FaZe is playing better right now. So
yeah, FaZe care about this event, Maui. You said it yourself. So
that's true. That's true. Who do you think Perdogo is gonna win?
Yeah, I'll be boring and say FaZe as well. But the reason for me is that Navi. So there's obviously the SDY stand-in factor, where they're still trying to fill the hole left by Boomich's departure, and that's one of those things where you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know what level they are. Clearly, there's enough talent on this team and enough protocols from Blade that you don't need to worry at all about like them going up against lesser opposition, we'll call it. But against the number 1, number 2, who knows really team in the world right now, FaZe in form. I don't like their odds with SDY more than I liked their odds with Boomich, and I predicted against Navi for the grand finals of the major. So I have to stay consistent just on that basis alone. FaZe looked like they actually came to play at this event, which is a refreshing change of pace compared to the last couple. So I'll take them to take the W.
I'm definitely buying heavy into the quality of the Navi win over NIP, who I feel was like their hardest opponent and the one that they took the most seriously. Well, you know, they beat. I say that, which is so like backwards in a way because MOUZ and Movi actually made it to the playoffs and they 2-1 both of those. But I just think, oh man, it's tough to like really sell this. But I do think Navi is gonna win this. I just something about simple, man, and something about like Electronics still being in incredible form while being an in-game leader. I think it takes so much pressure off of everybody.
Yeah.
I can't. I already really, loved when teams have an in-game leader that suddenly finds like a nice string of form. But when they're the second best guy on your team like this, and you have the players like Bit and Simple also, like it just feels so hard to manage that if you're FaZe. I guess the one angle I kind of agree with you, Note, though, is that because it's a 5 map pool, I don't know if STY is blooded on every map yet adequately enough. So that's a little
It's also
bit
like
concerning.
tough when you're like new to calling. I feel like Electronic is like new to like being like the full-time IGL.
Yeah.
BO5 is a long fucking series.
Yeah. It's I'm trying to
What do you mean? Just pull out the Blade Rolodex of strats. He's gonna slap a binder on the table and just call from there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think calling is easier when Blade is your coach by a large margin.
Yeah,
because he has the whole script right there. So you get a packet. You get like the whole book. So you just read the book and you just do what it says.
No, you're the investment package.
Yeah, like the way that Blade got around only having 4 timeouts is that he has everything there like in order, so he doesn't have to use his first like timeouts for the first 8 rounds basically.
Yeah,
he can basically, and then he can come in later if he sees something, because even though it's 50 pages long, it's only 50 pages long when Blade's mind is a million pages.
And if he pats Electronic on the left shoulder, it's strat 2, and right shoulder, it's strat 3.
Thank God we're not on a Valve event. Thank God we're not a Valve event. Yeah, that'd be a way to do it. Okay, we have a lot of Patreon questions, and we have a hard stop time in about 35 minutes, so we need to do these Patreon questions. Let's do it, guys. Let's jump into these. We've got Pronogo, you got it up on the screen. The just same chronological order.
It'll be the same order. Yep.
Okay, also, by the way, shout out to the Patreon itself. It's !Patreon in the Twitch chat. Be sure, if you guys want to get your questions answered by us, we will be able to do that. I think it's safe to say that, whatever. Talk about that stuff later. I don't need to preface everything in life. Let's just do it. Bad Dronis asked on June 8th, which IGLs outside of the NA region who might consider joining an NA team do you think would be a great fit for Liquid, EG's main team, or Complexity? Let's just... Okay, this is like 3 questions in one. Well, Liquid... Okay, do you guys...
I feel like it's mostly a question for EG, because I can't see... like Liquid doesn't seem like a...
I don't need a swap on Complexity or Liquid that badly.
Complexity, you could like make some sort of argument, but I don't know. I think you just stick with JT for now.
Or
I don't know who else you got.
Yeah.
But EG, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened on Fnatic, but I still rate Alex pretty well. But also, Fnatic literally opted to keep Mezzy and have them IGL rather than keeping Alex. So I don't know what's happening there. That must say something. But I don't know. I can't really think of any IGLs that instantly stick out to me like that.
Well, since this question has been even asked, there was that report that they were looking at Nealon and Hooksy. I think Hooksy would be okay. I think Hooksy would make some sense. I don't know stylistically. I haven't really broken down Copenhagen Flames enough to... Someone said "Bird from Sky" in chat, which will always make me laugh. But, I don't know. I don't know. Ooh, well, I don't know. Do you guys see any other IGLs out there? I'm looking at players now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing as well.
Hooksy, I feel like would just be good to make sure they get back on track. I don't really know much about Nealon, to be honest.
K23 was not that good that I would have like even considered him, but
yeah, it's a weird choice. I don't know.
I didn't watch that much of them, but what I saw of them didn't seem like it was screaming tactics at me anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
But I will say on the Alex from Fnatic / Cloud9 route is like that I think is a pretty solid shout. I mean, people were saying earlier in chat that Alex might even be a good fit to replace Alexi B if you're willing to take yet another IGL gamble, perhaps. But I don't even know if it is a gamble. Like, Alex seems to me like he should have been on track to be a top tier IGL, and maybe he's just been the most unlucky man possible. And hopefully that doesn't stain his career further. But I have seen nothing to indicate that he's like a problem or that there's an issue, besides like maybe reading between the lines of what Mick said about Mezzy being the IGL now. So I don't know what's going on over there, but it would be an upgrade over NA, like for EG, for example.
I'll shed some light on the Alex case right now because I do know a lot, actually.
Okay.
But it's like personality stuff. He kind of like gets emo in games. He also like okay, whatever. This is so long ago. Like basically when they lost the RMR, it just like didn't really show camaraderie. Like that's kind of a way to put this, where it was kind of like, and that the thing is like when I hear about some of the reasons why they like moved away from Alex on Fnatic, it kind of seemed like Alex was getting a little bit fed up with where the team was and what was going on with it. And I think he's like in his right to do that, because when you're him and you have this lineup that was like Brolin, Mezzy, Crims, yourself, and Smooya, you kind of like a lot of the problems seem to come from Smooya there. But then when Smooya and Brolin both left, it's like now you're losing a lot very quickly, and you kind of feel like that was ripped away from you. And I really kind of empathize with Alex, because when you lose players like that, they're pretty irreplaceable, or Brolin mostly. And I think that's like probably rubbed him the wrong way with where the direction of the Fnatic org was going, getting all these academy players in and like trialing Poison and all these people out. Like, you know, eventually you just like, but so I don't think he's like necessarily like damaged goods or anything. Like he can bounce back. So I think I kind of feel Alex could be good. But that's kind of the history with him and Fnatic. They just had a bad falling out because of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's understandable given the situation. Like I said, you know, it's easy to say, oh, he's one of the most unlucky people in Counter-Strike. But I don't know. Like at the same time, you got to take credit for what your involvement was in it all. So I'm sure he's hopefully reflected on that, and he's ready to come back harder, grind, Sigma grind set. Hello, get him on the team, please. That's my.
I've seen him call some really great T sides, even with that kind of busted Fnatic roster. So I think he's a pretty legit IGL. Just saying. So, okay, so that's our answer for that question. First Sock asked June 12th. While it's not very topical, considering the original ban happened over a year ago, and they've been unbanned for a few months, what do you think of the fact that the Timbermen core is back and grinding up the ranks again? Was their original punishment a year ban from ESEA and permanent bans from FPL too light or just right? So, Note, do you remember what they did to get banned? So, for people that don't know, this is like a premier level team. They weren't like a playoff premier level team, but they were kind of like middle of the pack in ESEA Premier or Challenger League. So, what did they do?
They were just like in every pug or like match they would play, they're just weirdos. Like they would talk shit, be racist, like say like they'd call people like
gamer words,
the F word, gamer words, as you would.
Bad gamer words. Okay.
And yeah, they basically did that for like years running, and then they basically like when Elige actually called them out for it, like a lot of other people who had been who'd said so, who'd had them say weird shit to them, also like came out with what they'd done. They were also posting like from what I was told by somebody else, it was like this cartoon image of like child of like not it wasn't strictly child porn, but it was like cartoons of like young like like a show or something, but with like characters that are super
just
young.
Like they're just like the
it was like
definition
freaky.
of just like
it was just like weird shit. Like
like there's just the definition of like fucking like edgy humor. You know what I mean? Like
it wasn't even
so
edgy.
funny.
It was like past edgy. It was just like why?
Like, you know what I mean?
Why can't you just be a normal like?
This is so funny because it's edgy and it's dark.
And so basically that was the whole deal. They like would go. I think they went to a LAN about a year ago or like a little over a year ago, and they also like tried to shit talk JoJo and like a couple of other players, and they ended up getting kicked out. So I think as to the question, I think that like I don't know, I don't believe in like having someone punished forever, but that's on the condition that they're like actually trying to change that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case with these players because they've been punished before and just claim that they're being victimized, and it doesn't really check out. I will say to one point is that Kel seems to get caught up in like the conversation as like part of that group of like I mean he is part of the group and part of the team, but he, as far as my understanding of it, he's never been like one of the people to say those words or anything, but he has like enabled it by being there and not saying anything. So he is like tied to it, but from my understanding, he hasn't said anything. But like Havoc, Dane, Snav, those guys do are all like part of that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of sure something like they don't need to be like fucking banned forever, especially like when they're mostly all like teenagers or whatever. But I mean, if they obviously, I don't really keep up with them or anything, so I have no idea if that's something that they ever like accepted responsibility for and like try to improve as people and like just grow the fuck up. If that's the case and they really are trying to mature and that type of shit, then I'm all for people getting like second chances and continuing to play and try to grind themselves and maybe even like getting unbanned from FPL one day if they aren't edgy cringewords anymore, that type of thing. But I mean, if they just instantly like start doing the same shit, I mean, I feel like you just permanently ban them at that point if they're just not going to learn ever. So, but I mean, I don't really mind people getting second chances, even for shit like that.
Well, when we were younger, maybe the internet was less prominent, and as a result, the stuff has long since been purged, and so nobody knows who we were in a past life. Not the case for these people. Everything's been publicized. Hopefully they grow out, and you'd think they would. I mean, there's so many resources out there, including just aging in general, that gives you a better perspective on life. So I think they'll be all right if they actually were genuine in being a little bit, like, I guess regretful or something to that effect, right? And saying like, yeah, we'll own up to that. I don't know the circumstances. I'm just saying if that's the case and they came back and they felt like their time was served and they finally took responsibility for it, great. And if not, if it's more of just lip service, then their actions will distribute that, right? So it was a pretty ridiculous case when it came out. If people don't remember, though, like when some of the recordings or whatever were surfaced, it was, well, I wouldn't recommend doing that in the modern age. You never know who's recording you. So
yeah, so I think just like I don't know if they're still doing bad stuff. It should be like another 2-year punishment, but I don't know if they are. So that's my only contract. So
yeah.
I think it's fine. I think basically so is it too light or just right? I think a year is just right, but permanent ban from FPL seems pretty crazy. Honestly, I think it should also just be a year.
It's definitely be up for like review at some point.
Yeah. Because people,
I think that was just, I don't want to say incompetence, but just like poorly managed by the FaZe staff. Like I don't think that they were involved enough in the issues before it became such a like melting pot of a problem. Like I tried to tell them, like DM them a while ago. I know that a couple of other players tried to DM them a while ago, and they never like actively did stuff. Like they would ban a player for a week, and then he'd be back doing the same thing. And it's just like, okay, you're not actually like trying to help this. So then they let it like boil over to the point where it had to be like something extreme, and then they kind of just like, because it was like going viral on Twitter, they kind of just slapped that whole thing on it and made it a permanent ban. But that like, yeah, that should be up for review at some point. That doesn't really make sense.
Is FaZe just like ridiculously understaffed or something? Like I always hear people say that, I messaged the mods or admins or whatever and didn't get anywhere with my case, and it's actually something that should warrant attention from what they're presenting. I don't know if that's just signal bias from looking at Twitter or something, but it does feel like everybody has to go outside of FaceIt in order to get an answer, and even then it's not a guarantee. And I just have to wonder what's going on with that whole setup. I guess they're managing at scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since Slow started there, it's gotten better, I think.
Okay.
At least for the North America side of things. So there is like someone who is actually in touch with the scene and active, like trying to manage it at this point. But back then, there definitely wasn't someone doing it properly.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. Arrow4 on June 15th asks, thoughts on this article about EG? It's the EV's interview that he like revealed all the shit about what was going on internally with that team. And what is he asking? And or how good would a team of automatic NAF floppy?
Like an NA stream team, I don't know.
Okay, he's like asking a second question.
Probably just do the first one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, okay. So what do we think about the EV thing about Stewie?
I mean, the article, like I think he's right to talk about like some of it, but also I feel like I don't know how much I agree with like just doing an interview as like the assistant coach for the team you're on, and just like literally revealing like fucking like everything and just like throwing everyone under the bus and just talking about whatever. I mean, even just from like his perspective, I feel like it's just not worth it, because then you just get yourself involved in some like stupid drama.
Like some of that should stay behind closed doors.
Like I don't know, I thought it was a bit ridiculous. Like kind of like how much he told about it. Like, I did like an interview with HLTV after I think after the Colossus team, right? And like even then, like I'm still like careful about what I'm saying. Like I have like my issues and stuff with the team and like maybe certain people, but like I'm not just gonna go in there and be like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit, and he wouldn't.
Sure.
No, you did that. You did that before the interview started.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I'm still like gonna be like careful of like what I'm actually putting out there for like everyone to just fucking read, right? I don't know. I feel like he should have just been more careful of like what exactly he was saying and how he was saying it.
Yeah, well, it is.
Some points are valid.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair to just like completely throw only Stewie under the bus as like the entire reason for the team failing. I mean, obviously he was a large reason, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a takes two to tango in some capacity, but it does feel like maybe the way that it's painted anyway, it definitely paints Stewie in a very negative light. The thing about revealing the details is I feel like the French scene is notorious for having these super revealing interviews, and then they don't know of anybody who actually translates these articles. No, these just stay in the French sphere. No English-speaking pundit is ever going to get their hands on a translated version. They're never going to use, like, I don't know, DeepMind translation or anything in a pinch to see what's going on. No, it'll just stay behind closed doors. It's Vegas, guys. It's not Vegas. This stuff does actually trickle out to the rest of the world. We will find out about it, just as a matter of course. The idea that you're going to reveal all this shit and just assume that it's totally fine and there's not going to be any... Like, it's happened so many times with French outlets, hasn't it? Like, you think of the Xtaz interview where he probably shed a few too many details about what was going on with G2 and LXCB conflicts and stuff. And even before that, or maybe after that, I guess there was the Apex podcast translation, which was probably a little bit out of context because that seems like a very casual show. But, there's still all these elements where there will be some content, shoulder content or whatever made for the French scene. And they just kind of think maybe it's fine and we're all insiders and nobody else is going to find out. I don't know. But this one definitely made a splash. I'll say that much.
You mean like the interview where Apex was like, Stewie's making 2 times as much, 2 times my side. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Stewie is not a leader or whatever the fuck he said. Yeah, it's just...
Then I don't know what to tell you.
Jesus.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think reacting to some of the things are kind of in the article. I actually kind of knew a lot of this actually already. Actually, Malik was like pretty open with me at the RMR. I'm not gonna say exactly what he said, but he told me some things about the internal workings of the team being very off. So that's that. And
I heard some similar stuff when I was in Dallas.
Yeah, just to respect his privacy, I'm not going to get into what he told me, but like Evie said more than what Malik told me. So like that was like that's where this interview is kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's really now tough if you're anybody to hire this Evie guy because like why would you want to hire somebody that is so willing to say all this? Like that's what I kind of think about a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
When I see this, which Mix covered that too, but
I don't like the team that's adjusted down there, by the way. Only because like I don't know why you would have automatic NAF and floppy.
Yeah, true.
And then not a leash. Like why those
that's
three
like,
players?
It's like three. It's like three players that are almost like the same.
Wait,
exactly.
So they well for the question for the second part of this question, as people know, the guy also asked how good would a team of automatic NAF, floppy, OC, and an IGL basically be? And that's so that has 3 passive riflers on it, which is
like
weird.
Same role riflers essentially.
Yeah. It'd be cool to see if they could make it work because they're all very skilled, but like
they're all pretty versatile. So it's like it's not like they're only passive, but still, it's a bit.
Probably not entries though. That's for sure. They're not space takers for the most part. So I think like of these 3, automatic might be the most aggressive, which is like really passive still. But okay, let's move on to the next question. Slumpness Monster asked on June 17th, what international roster would benefit the most from picking up NAF? Nasty ass NAF is what he wrote. So what roster would benefit from NAF? Let's just assume language barriers are not an issue.
Sure.
Let's just say that. Put that
forward. Hear me out.
Yeah.
Minus Misuta plus NAF.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty sick, actually. I think minus Jax plus NAF would be pretty good for G2.
But the personality,
shit. Oh my god. I have it. Okay. Minus Tizian plus NAF. Boom. This big team is so good. It's so good, actually. Like, are you telling me that wouldn't be like a top 4 team right there?
Does NAF even have to like speak German, or is he?
No, like, we're saying language barrier is not an issue.
Oh, okay.
For this. So yeah.
It was funny.
Every roster now an international roster. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I feel like I could imagine NAF like on a team just calming in English and all his teammates just like calming in German and still just dropping like 20 kills.
He doesn't care.
He just doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, one ram, and then just screams German. He's like, all right. And he's just like,
the thing is also, Big can switch to English. They've done it before. Yeah. All those guys.
Wait.
True.
NAF for drop then.
Oh, NAF for drop would also be really good. That'd be. Yeah, that would kind of
sick.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Your rifle trio of Quesarado, Yuri, NAF. That's
god, it's pretty disgusting. Actually, there's not even really a team that is that much. That there's no there's basically no team that wouldn't want to enlist NAF except for Navi and FaZe probably right now. Like even
and apparently EG when they tried to rebuild their roster.
yeah. Well, I thought he turned that down.
He turned them down after they weren't like running with the project that they had in
Okay.
mind.
Okay. I think almost I really think almost every is there any team ranked 3rd to 10th that you would think would be a bad spot for NAF? Like not really. Like assuming they speak English or could.
No,
It's like
I
he'd
mean,
be
like
sick
I
on
could,
like heroic, like
Yeah,
yeah.
he'd be good on heroic, he'd be good on Nip for Plopsky.
I think Naut's just an upgrade player for like basically any team.
Yeah, basically, yeah. This team. I don't know. Okay, that's our answer to the question. Every team would get better with NAF, pretty much. So, that's it. Adam asked July 11th. Do you think over the next year more talented players will join ENCE, or all the existing talent on ENCE will be picked apart to join better teams? Oh, that's just like a hard prediction.
Yeah, normally the
What do
way
you guys-
these things work is that the organization that doesn't have a crazy amount of budget just gets picked apart because they get too many offers they can't refuse. So, and the players
Yeah.
themselves too. But the problem with this is
it's
that
hard to say.
ENCE's top 3 in the rankings, they're like, or have, historically they've just been ramping up to this point where they're so good. And the idea that like, okay, yeah, they're gonna start falling apart now. Like, really? I don't see that happening unless there is a personality conflict
feel like-
within the team. You know?
I don't know
think
much.
No, you
I
go.
was gonna say I don't know much about ENCE as like an org, but they almost feel like they're like in like an in between slot where like they're big enough that like you have to pay a pretty substantial amount to like buy out a player, and they probably get like decent salaries, but they're also not like rich enough that they can just like buy out a ton of like buy out like a super talented player from like another team type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I
a
think-
reason they picked up Hades and Spinks and some of these like FPL almost players or something. Like they're not breaking the bank to hire out talent.
From my understanding, their salaries aren't like super high, like some of the best teams in the world, but like they're not badly paid or anything. So I think they're like, I think it was mentioned in like a podcast or something that I listened to. But I think if you'd asked this question a year ago, then I would lean towards ENCE eventually getting picked apart. But the fact that they're now an EPL partner team and actually have that slot in ESL leagues kind of changes the dynamic a bit. I think there's less incentive for the players to want to go to a different team in that way, because at least now they're guaranteed to have those ESL event appearances and EPL appearances. Whereas before, like you could see players being like, oh, like this team, like this, like NIP wants to go international and pick up Spinks or whatever. Like then they'd be like, okay, you have a spot in Blast, you have a spot in EPL, like that's worth it. Whereas now it's not like they're still not in Blast, but like there's still more incentive to stay. Like ENCE are buying into keeping the team long term.
I feel like players on a team like this mostly would like almost like want to leave. Like the only time they would actually like want to leave and join another team is to join maybe like a top team from like of their nationality. But obviously like a lot of these players, like there's no good like top Polish team at the moment, like Dihan Hades aren't rushing to join Virtus Pro or something. Right. And obviously the other two don't really have like sick national teams just in general. So the only one that would have like the opportunity potentially in the future would be like Snappy. If one of these Danish teams came calling for like an IGL and he wanted to like play for a Danish team again. But even then it's like he's had the most success here in his entire career. So if you really like want to leave that. So I don't know. I can't really see any of them just getting like poached by anyone, at least in the near future.
Well, to answer it, I think they would probably then be a little bit more likely to pick up a player. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe like because of their success, like I feel like they'd be more prone to like make an investment into someone, maybe to try to continue it.
Oh, it'd be like really cool, honestly, to like get a Dexter in here. That'd be really unique.
That
would take this team to what I would hope would be like they're a top 3 team, but I almost feel like they're an inconsistent top 3 right now. Like they more so feel like a top 6 team to me, maybe like so. I think they would be like a really surefire top 4 team if they got Dexter in for Hades. So That would be the move I want, and I think that's more likely than this team getting picked apart. So that's where I put this. Okay, CS Leaks at CSGO Leaks on Twitter asked today, is Big a top 5 team if JDC replaces Tizian? Oh.
It's a Mally question.
Yeah.
It feels
I
kind of
agree.
like a side grade to me, but what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a side grade. I think JDC was super impressive in the Academy League, and I thought he deserved to be playing at a slightly higher level. I think we're seeing that right now, with what MOUZ are attempting to put together. And well, the thing is that he's not really even playing the exact same roles on T side now that he was before. So he kind of is doing better right now, so it doesn't really make as much sense because when he played more Tizian style roles, he didn't play that well. So I don't think that team gets better. I don't think they get better with JDC over Tizian. They would just get better if they had like I don't know. There was some, let me think. Who could even speak German? I don't know who they should get, really. I think they ran this segment at ESL about like, should the team switch players or should they keep their players? And I think almost everybody kept the team for Big because they just look at the German landscape and it's like really hard to immediately be like, yeah, get this guy in for Tizian. Like the only guy is Keto, actually. And I don't know if you really want just Keto for Tizian in those roles. Like, I actually think Keto's better today as an overall contributor to a team, but I don't know if he's better in that role. So that's the only thing I would do to Big is maybe actually experiment Keto for Tizian spots on every map and just see if the added firepower and maybe slight drop in terms of team play and tactics is worth it for them. And they have the resources to do that because they're all on the same payroll. So they could just move Tizzy into the Academy League, help out the Academy team a lot while Keto gets another shot at this stuff. But I don't think JDC is the answer. That's all. So that's that answer. Okay. That brings us to the end here. We're about to hit our hard stop in 8 minutes. And let's do shout outs. Mix, what's your shout out?
Oh, of course, it has to be Yossi. My man's playing on the stage for the first time in Cologne. I'm excited for him.
Is it the first time he's ever been at an arena?
Yeah, on a stage this big. I mean, plays like dream hacks and stuff, but nothing like this for him.
Okay, yeah, like a proper arena event.
Because COVID hit when like we were first coming up on C9, and then Liquid hasn't really played any huge events yet.
What didn't you guys do well at Pro League or something? Did they?
But yeah, we never played on the stage though.
Oh right, you guys just beat like North and G2 or something like that.
Yeah, the only stage we played on was like just like a dream hack, where you played
Okay.
in it's like the bleachers or whatever.
Oh, okay. Okay, Pronogo, what's your shout out?
I'll say shout out to you guys. Thanks for doing the show. It's good, fun.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Touching.
That's a cop out.
Grind.
That's a cop out.
I say something nice and you guys call me.
Okay. No, what's your shout out?
I'll shout out the two-time server time guest YEKINDAR for making me enjoy watching Liquid play again.
Okay.
Saving NA.
Saving NA. The Latvian superstar. Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I'll shout out. Who do I want to shout out? Shout out to the B Stream team in Slovakia for the Cologne event, like Harry, Hugo, Haka, Dinko, and Veracity, because that looked like a weird setup. And congrats on surviving, because you guys did it. You went to Slovakia and left in one piece. I don't know anything about Slovakia. I don't know a single thing about that country.
Do people usually come away missing pieces, or what's the story?
Yeah, I
Like
don't.
how you're like, I know nothing about the country. Congrats for making it out. Like,
If I don't know anything out about a country, I usually just assume not great things. And I know a lot about a lot of countries. So
Oh, okay.
that's okay. Can you name one city in Slovakia? Any of you? Now, like quick.
Slovakia capital.
Slovakian city. No, you can't. That's what I mean. It's actually like this whole country is like completely off the radar for me. The capital is Bratislava, which I had never heard of until a week ago. So, just saying, I could
So I was
probably name it.
close. Okay.
You were right there. No, yeah. The Twitch chat would like to shout out Junior.
Big fan of Junior.
nice.
No,
That's gonna be
unironically, hope he sticks it out. Shout out Junior. There you go. There's my knock.
Unironically, just keep it up. Just keep it up, Complexity. Just keep it going. Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be it from us. Be sure, if you guys want to support, to subscribe on Patreon, and you can have a question at the end of the show. And you guys also fund the podcasts in other ways, like hosting fees, which I should be working on with you, Pronogo, to make sure that doesn't happen. But they're still there. We still have hosting fees. Also can be found on any of your favorite Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast platform you use. We are on there. So be sure, if you like the audio version in the future, to subscribe on your platform of choice. Thank you. And I think we can just roll the Patreon thing, and everybody will know that we have a Patreon because we have all these wonderful supporters. Peace.